Welcome to In the Spotlight. I'm Abigail Pogrebin. My guest today is Gayle Kirschenbaum. She is an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker, TV producer, writer, speaker, photographer, and forgiveness coach. She is the creator of several reality shows and has gained acclaim for her film, Look at Us Now, Mother, which chronicles her journey to forgive her mother and transform their relationship. Another notable film of Gayle's is called A Dog's Life, a dogumentary, portraying the heartwarming bond between dogs and humans through her own experiences with her Shih Tzu. Her photographs have been exhibited internationally and in many private collections. Gayle's writings have been published in many outlets, including the Huffington Post, Parade, the New York Times, and the LA Times. Her recent book, which we're going to talk about today, is called Bullied to Besties, A Daughter's Journey to Forgiveness. It was published in September 2025. Welcome, Gayle, to the broadcast.
Thank you.
Good to be with you. So for any of us who have had some reckonings with a parent, this resonates. But I want to start with what you had to forgive your mother for, because anyone who has seen Mildred on Instagram thinks she's the most lovable, hysterical. She's all of our grandmothers. I mean, I literally have lost hours of my life watching your mother and you with your mother. They are just priceless, and everyone should follow it's on your Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And we'll put that up on the Chiron. But people don't realize how serious the abuse was, the torment was. Can you give us a sense, if you have the strength to pull us back to those years, of just what you experienced as a child?
Yeah, so I was the youngest of three. I had two older brothers, and my mom I'm born in the 50s. My mom was convinced she was having a boy. She says she took a saliva test, and it came back 50% she's having a boy. Now, she always says I'm not good in math. I'm not a numbers person. I'm very creative, but I know what 50% means. And back in the day, they knocked you out. She gave birth to me. Gayle. So I believe we got off to a bad start.
You were about to say Gary because she was going to call you Gary.
Yes.
And then you're a disappointment, essentially.
Yeah, in fact, she told me, it's in the book, it's in the film, she told my brothers that she's bringing home their little brother named Gary.
Wow. So
she stuck with the G, and I had to be Gayle. So, but I think we got off to a bad start when she found out my gender, because women that are on sort of the narcissistic spectrum, let's say.
This is her, not you.
Exactly. Or when another female arrives, there's like jealousy because they want to be the star. They want to be the only female. And I think if they can, I'm not a psychologist, but I think that if they can control the gender of their children, they would do best just having boys. So yeah, I think that's where we got off to a bad start.
And then where can you just give a couple of the examples of where the mistreatment happened, and how young?
Well, my earliest memories, I'll tell you the truth, and you can see the 8mm footage because I was born at the end of '54 and my father bought the 8mm camera, and you could see me as an infant in a high chair of her feeding me and having no patience and yanking my arm, and then you see this other footage of her stroking my brothers and giving them love. So she was just so angry with me all the time, and I wasn't doing anything. So the good news is I knew it wasn't my fault, but it was this unbelievable rage.
How did you know it wasn't your fault at such a young age? I mean, how can you not actually think there's some logic to it?
Right. So that's a good question. I'm asked it often, and people always say to me, you seem so confident, and I was abused and I was ripped apart and I've lost my confidence. I don't know if you believe this or not, but I feel like, and I felt it when I was very young, not that I grew up and was hit by the New Age movement. I felt like I must have come into this world as a new soul, as an old soul into a family of new souls. Because I feel like I came in with some knowledge. I feel like who we are today, you have to go back in time. So I was in my very single digits, like 5 and below, because we lived in Queens and then we moved, when I used to ask her brother, Uncle Sonny, what happened to Mommy when she was little? But they're from the secret generation. They don't talk. They hide everything.
Before we get to her scars, can you just give me the example of the refrigerator? It was just a particularly difficult scene.
Yeah.
for me.
Right. So what happened was my brothers became her enforcers. The older brother, who was 8, so we're spaced 4 years and 4 years, and the elder brother then we're 8 years apart. And he even said, it's in the book, that he was a good soldier. He did what my mother said him to do. The one who was 4 years older, he was just happy that, he didn't want me to be around. So I don't know. I was probably, who knows, just my presence. She wanted me out of the way, and she got my brothers to grab me and put me on the refrigerator.
I think you were 7.
Yes. And it happened more than once.
You
And
couldn't get down. You couldn't reach anything.
No. It was very scary. You're a little kid. Your feet are dangling. And it was horrific.
And they were eating dinner while you were up there.
Right.
It's just heartbreaking, Gayle.
Like a caged animal, they could look at and laugh.
So did you get away, like, consciously, into books, into movies, into friends? Like, what was your escape?
Well, no, because I had no concentration. I think I definitely have some ADD, but I couldn't focus because I was living, I always say I was born into enemy territory, between my mother and my 2 brothers. So I was always in a state of fight or flight. My escape was journaling. I went upstairs, I went and wrote in my diaries. And because I was very artistic, I drew. So that was it. And then that wasn't sacred anymore because she found my diaries. I came home once and I think I was in high school and they were out of my bed. It was like, why? Oh, I wanted to show my girlfriends your drawings. I was so angry. I said to her, I'm going to put a naked picture of you in the middle. She went through everything.
What about your appearance? It seems like there was so much focus on it. Yes. Give us some sense.
And that's pretty common between the mother-daughter relationship, right? Because we're supposed to represent them. So I was born with curly hair. I have curly hair, so I don't want the viewers to think this is natural.
It's very curly. I can attest.
Yes, this is not. This is not natural, guys.
This is just for JBS.
Yeah, and a little coloring too, because I'm pretty gray now. Anyway, so I really thought that God cursed me because he gave me curly hair. So she was having my hair straightened since 3rd grade. And there was a product that came out called Curl Free. I don't know if you remember.
I sort of do.
Yeah. It was very big at my time period. And so then I was always straightening it. And then the other thing was my nose. So it started to grow. And where I grew up on Long Island at the time, getting a nose job for a young woman was a rites of passage.
Right.
But I didn't want one. So we fought over that. So everything about me that was stereotypical Jewish, she couldn't stand. And then years later, I ended up on the Today Show for one of my movies. And I said, how was I? She goes, you sound too Jewish. You need to take elocution classes.
This is when you're an adult.
Yes.
So once you are an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker and you're in Hollywood and you're in New York and you're living an adult life, what is your relationship like with her before you go on this road to forgiving her?
Well, it was trying. We did have 3,000 miles between us, but of course I would go home for a visit and it would be back to how it was. It was like scapegoat and victim were all over me, the bullying. My brothers continued into adult life. They both became professionals and they continued to bully me. So I was always reacting and I had to go home and recover. It was hard.
You write that I wasn't a daughter, I was an object, something to control, punish, dismiss. Do you think that she was aware of what she was doing? Did she have any compunction about it, any guilt?
At the time or later? At the time?
And even when you were an adult?
No.
Before the reckoning, before...
No, I think that, I don't know. I can't speak for her, but I just think she was constantly triggered and she obviously hurt people.
Let's talk about her hurt for a minute.
Okay.
How did you get to that, discover that? It was kind of as a journalist. Almost.
Yes, because I kept asking her about her past and the answer was, I don't know, I don't remember, like repetitive, constantly. So that led me to dig in, as you said, kind of like an investigative journalist. So I went into find vital records, I interviewed relatives that are now gone, and I found all the address she lived in. So I started putting the narrative of her childhood together, which was very sad. Her father tried to kill himself twice, right around the Depression, after the Depression, due to finances. She had a little sister. She blanked out on this whole thing. You know, she blanked out about the funeral, the Shiva.
What about the sister, the little sister?
She died. She got pneumonia and she died. And I said, Mom, you were 7. She doesn't remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you certainly have memory then.
She remembers the moment when they were out in Far Rockaway, or the Rockaways, because she had pneumonia. My grandmother used all her money. It was $6,000 for medical care because, you know, she had a depressed husband that was in bed. My grandmother had to roll up her sleeves. There's no time for emotion. It's like we have to handle things. She started a produce business. She had 3 kids to feed. One gets sick, gets pneumonia. They go out to the beach for the summer thinking the air is going to help heal the child. My mom tells the story. She remembers this. She tells the story that she's with her aunt on the beach. She looks up, she sees on the boardwalk people running, and she runs, and then she sees this cop holding this baby. It was her sister who was dead and her mother crying.
Oh my God. Wow.
And then actually before that, when her father attempted suicide twice, she tells a story about how he was taken to Kingsborough, some mental hospital in Brooklyn. And she says back then children were not allowed upstairs. So that's how she spent her summer, sitting in the lobby when her mother was upstairs.
So did she see him again?
Oh yeah, I mean, I grew up with a grandfather, but he didn't really, you know, I think he tried twice through gas. He never seemed all there, like maybe some of his brain cells were impacted.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So did she eventually reckon with these things once you had kind of done your sleuthing?
Well, you know, I say my mother's very smart, and she is. And she's probably the most versatile woman I know. I mean, she could build anything, make anything, cook anything. She's brilliant with finances. She's had a business. But she's kind of low on the emotional intelligence. I think that's how she was raised, you know. There was so much trauma. There's generational trauma. You know, her parents were immigrants. They fled the pogroms. Wouldn't talk about it. So I think it's all about burying that stuff. It's just like very recent times, you know? And so many people say to me, you're so lucky. So here's the deal that I want everybody to be aware of. When I went on my journey, I was like already 50. So now I'm 70, right? Because I couldn't handle every time I went home that I was reacting to this constant abuse. And my friends were all saying, just cut them off, cut your family off. And I thought, you know, the pain of estrangement would probably be worse. What I have to figure out is how to forgive her and him and my brothers. And that's when I went on my journey. When I went on my journey, she never acknowledged she did anything wrong, so she's of course not going to apologize. But I forgave her anyway. And so I changed now how I responded to the criticisms. So instead of cowering or, giving it back, I laughed it off. And so I took her power away. And then it wasn't effective and eventually faded away. You know, I made a film about my nose, so trying to get me to have a nose job. She stopped criticizing my nose.
Wow. You write in the prologue, it's a powerful last line, I had to find a way to stop being a victim. I had to transform my life. I had no idea if that was even possible. This is the story of how I did it anyway. So that sense, and you were talking before in the green room to me, that you kind of have to go through without still expecting kind of like A plus B equals C. You're just going to do your A and not worry about B. And maybe you'll get to a different C or D or F, or you forget my metaphor, it falls apart. But the idea is like you're just going to do things differently for yourself. And not so much like I'm looking for this thing I'm never going to get from her.
Exactly. Bingo. So you just hit it right there. The thing that gets us so upset in life with people, with relationships, is unfulfilled expectations. And every person that is a significant person in our life, whether it's a mother, a father, a sibling, a spouse, child, comes with they're supposed to treat us a certain way. So a mother, of course, she should love and nurture me. When she doesn't do that and she does the reverse, you're angry. Why is that happening? So when I went on that journey to figure out what happened to her, because you have to understand your abuser to be able to reframe that. So when I saw all the tragedy of her childhood, I saw a wounded little girl. And then I reframed how I looked at her.
And she was suddenly that little girl.
Right, so.
But you're not a psychologist, so where, I know it's in the book, but just for the audience, where are you getting this expertise to reframe? as you said?
I don't know. It's so funny. I just feel like I came out of the womb extremely
But
hot.
were there people who were advising you through this journey?
No.
This was never all your...
my own. I think I just came into this world, first of all, a total empath, very intuitive, just understanding people, just having it. It's just organic for me.
But for you to make this switch you're talking about making.
Yes, I realized I had to change how I looked at her. Yeah, no, it was just so clear.
Now, again, as I said, she's pretty lovable now. And funny, like really,
Yeah,
and you're so funny together.
She's like one of the funniest.
God.
Oh yeah, she's the queen of the one-liners.
But in fact, we should show just a couple of clips.
Sure.
But just to go back to her culpability here, there's some serious things.
Yeah.
So forgiving her is not making her necessarily pay a price for those things. You didn't feel like there needed to be some kind of, not just atonement, but like reparations.
Yeah, she's going to pay me for the rest of my life. Yes.
But even just emotionally, like needing her to say, I did this, I did that, I did this. No?
No, because it's like getting angry at a blind person for not driving a race car, or not driving. They're incapable. How can you be angry at a human being that doesn't have that skill set? I changed how I looked at her. I looked at her as a wounded child who was incapable. How can you give love when you didn't receive that kind of love? She didn't have the tools. She wasn't given it.
Were there any moments or memories that you initially couldn't bear to include or thought about not including, but later decided, I have to tell this?
In the book? Okay, so there is something in the book, it's not in the movie, that it wasn't about what she did to me, but what she did. That I thought, and should I mention it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is early on in the 50s. I'm born at the very end of the 50s. She used to schlep me to a Mays department store. And back in the day, price tags were attached, they were printed or written on a piece of, not oak tag, but it was thicker paper. And they were attached with a straight pin, on the clothing, right? So she used to take them and switch a price tag.
Wow.
She'd find like a lower price and do it. And I knew that was not cool. And I was like, do I put that here? And I did, and she read the book and she was okay.
She was okay with
it.
it. Your dedication begins to my mother, Mildred, for having the courage to take this journey with me. How much was she really with you on this ride to this kind of reckoning?
I did it on my own. This is all my own. But what she did, which is really remarkable, when she turned 99, now I started making all these videos. People, some were going viral. She's getting all this attention. So you have to feed what you're growing here. So constantly creating videos. So it was Yom Kippur, and I'm like, hey, Mom, we need a video. And she was stalling. I said, well, atonement, do our story. So I taught her how to use her phone. I'm up in New York. She's in Florida at the time. So she knows how to record on her phone. So she sends me the video. And in the video, she says, I was, first time ever, I'm asking Gayle, I was very harsh to Gayle, and for that I'm asking for forgiveness. I know Gayle has forgiven me, but now I have to forgive myself. And I thought that was amazing. And of course, all the followers are writing, oh my God, you're so lucky. My mother died, I never heard it. It had no impact on me regarding forgiving her. I had forgiven her. I forgave her, I found compassion and love for her. But that she came to that place for herself.
Today is Yom Kippur. It's a holiday asking God to be forgiven for all your sins. Looking back at my relationship with Gayle, today we are best friends. She was my caregiver when I was not well, and she's Johnny on the spot. But Gayle came into this world as an artist with a strong personality, and I guess I didn't know how to handle it. And I was harsh with her. I picked on her. If she was in my way in the kitchen, and we put her on top of the fridge. If she came back late from a date, I spilled water in her face. I shouldn't have done these things. Somewhere along the line, I went off track. You are so talented. You are an extraordinary filmmaker, a wonderful artist. You know how proud I am of you? You'll never know. But yes, I was very harsh in so many ways, and for that, I ask your forgiveness. In my heart, I know you forgave me, but I am trying to forgive myself for all the wrongdoings.
You talked about some of the videos that went viral. Can you just give us one example and we'll play it? The one when...
The Attitude?
Yeah, she was on the Today Show because of it?
Yeah, well, she wasn't there live. They just ran the video.
Yeah.
Because I think Maria Shriver picked it up on her feed, and then, one thing leads to another. Yeah, so, she lives in Boca Raton in a country club. And, the girls can complain and they go out to eat and this isn't cooked right and this isn't hot enough and, blah, blah, blah. And in her video, she talks about how important attitude is. So if you go out to eat, if you don't like the main course, then have an extra dessert. So her friends complain, my kids don't call me enough. And she says, look at it differently, like they're having a good life. Then give them a call. It's that expectations, unfulfilled expectations.
Okay,
yes.
Let's play that clip.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all feeling great. I want to share a thought about attitude. I will be 100 years old in August. It's only a couple of months away. And yet, I have friends who are 20 years younger, 15 years younger, and their attitudes are going to cause them not to survive to my age. And not grateful for anything. Their attitude is I don't see my kids more than once a week. Or the food I was served was cold, was bad, was not good. Their attitude is not acceptable. If the food isn't quite right, so have an extra dessert. If you hear from your children once a week, that's fine. They call you once a week, you call them once a week. And be grateful that they are enjoying life. Change your attitude. Look at the positive side of life. I think that's what got me this far. I try my best not to sweat the small stuff and to have a positive attitude. Enjoy your day. Bye.
Okay, so did you ever have, you have a relationship with your mother now that is so warm and loving?
Yeah.
Did that ever shift with your brothers?
No, but I do want to say something that's really important.
Okay.
My older brother tragically got cancer. And it's funny, my mother always used to say there's no cancer in the family, and he didn't even believe he got it when he was diagnosed, he didn't even accept it. And, everybody's touched by cancer. And when he was dying, near death, and emaciated, and could barely speak, he says to me, and I gave myself to him the last summer he was living, that I will be here if you need me and whatever. So I was there often. And he looked at me and he said, I'm very jealous of you. So my knee-jerk reaction was, because I don't have cancer and I'm healthy. And I said, if I had a magic wand, I'd put it over you and I'd lift all the cancer out of you. And he goes, that's not it. You know what he said to me? He said to me, because you lived your life as a free spirit. And I flipped, because it's just wow.
Wow.
Because I never married, I didn't have children, I'm not bragging about it. In fact, I am looking for my shirt.
If you're out there.
Yeah, contact here. And so that's my scar. But they did what they were supposed to do. They were groomed. What a Jewish boy supposed to grow up and be, a doctor or a lawyer. So one of my brothers became a doctor, one became a lawyer. I was supposed to be the school teacher. Gayle, education's not important for you. And in fact, you'll go to a city or state school. They went to private school. So I picked Binghamton that didn't have an education department. So they did what they were supposed to do. They married nice Jewish girls at 21. So when he said that to me, I went, oh my God, my brother was trapped. You looked at him, he was so successful. He built a big law firm. He had, all the material wealth. He had the the family, the children, grandchildren, but he obviously wasn't happy.
So Gayle, my final question, you say, or you write, for anyone who has longed to be seen, this is your book too.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
God, because, we learn by example. So this book is my journey to forgive my mom. So of course I need to let the reader see and feel the abuse and read it, and then see my journey and how I got to where I was. So yes, I want to help as many people as I could because I know so many people are hurting.
Great.
Even if that person who hurt them is long gone, you still have to do the work.
The book is Bullied to Besties, A Daughter's Journey to Forgiveness. The author is Gayle Kirschenbaum. Go on her website. It's just a treasure trove. You've got the videos, you've got her films, you've got her books, her interviews. Thank you for this.
Thank you.
It's been good to be with you. I'm Abigail Pogrebin for In the Spotlight. I'll see you next time.